Welcome to another C-Level interview. Today I'm joined by Geoff Cook, who is the COO and co-founder of MeetMe. So Geoff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And first of all, I'd like to capture your founding story, because you've got one of the most fascinating founding stories in the industry, I think.
Sure. So it all started in 2005, actually, in April of 2005. I had just finished up with another company I was running, and that I had started in college and sold to the Thomson Corporation, a division of Thomson Learning. And I was coming off of a contract there for a couple of years. And my brother and sister were actually much younger than me, 10 and 11 years younger than me. And they were 15 and 16 at the time. Had this concept for a social network for high school, essentially replace the yearbook for high school. Instead of using a yearbook, have online profiles. But the concept was make new friends in your high school. And I thought that was an interesting idea. My sister even had the name, my yearbook, and had put smiley faces in the O's. And that essentially became our logo. And so I got behind the idea. I invested some of the early money into it. And it was off to the races. And in the very early days, it was really just a few of us working out of our houses. And by 2006, we put together an office, had hired about 15 people, and we're off to the races. In 2006, I think we did about $300,000 in revenue. It was really all about driving more new users. In the first week of launching in just their high school, which was Montgomery High School in Skillman, New Jersey, they got about 400 people to join. All by just wearing kind of interesting T-shirts and gear, like sweatpants, all branded my yearbook with kind of catchy slogans on them. And so that's how we did it originally. 9 months later, we had our first 1 million registrations, and the game quickly turned to driving the top of the funnel, increasing virality, plugging into viral channels. At that time, it was largely MySpace. And that's basically how we got started. And by 2000, I guess it was 2006, we did a round of funding. At the time, we were quickly adding servers. So we did a $4.1 million Series A with US venture partners and first round capital. And then in 2008, we did a Series B round with Norwest venture partners. And kind of fast forwarding, we merged with the COO Corporation, which was a Latin American-based social discovery network in November of 2011. And in that merger, we came together, and at that time we were My Yearbook and COO. At the time, prior to the merger, My Yearbook had been considering changing its name because we've been I think we thought of My Yearbook as essentially connoting classmates.com. So we wanted a name that really showed what we wanted to be perceived as, which was really the best place to meet people, and that's where MeetMe came from. We thought, and so that, of course, that's a big change, right? To change the name of a social community. If you imagine doing that to Facebook, people would be out in the street with pitchforks. And our users, of course, don't, and our members don't want us to change our name, right? They didn't. It was clear through various survey data that that was like the last thing they wanted us to do. And yet, we felt it was important to do for people who didn't join us yet. So we went through this kind of careful messaging program where what we said was nothing changes but the name. And my sister actually filmed this, and brother filmed this YouTube video where they had this prop of the website and literally just pulled off the logo and the My Yearbook logo, revealing Meet Me underneath it. And it went fairly smoothly. Since that date, which was June, that we rebranded officially, we not only didn't churn users, we thought it was quite possible that churn could have occurred, but we actually gained significant numbers of new users and active users. And so it went quite well. And then kind of completing this whole merger integration process, COO audience transitioned over to MeetMe in October of this year. And in order to complete that step, we needed to internationalize MeetMe in Spanish and Portuguese. And so we just did that We're kind of going beyond Latin America now with a European launch in French, Italian, and German, which we actually just announced yesterday. So it's been a busy year to say the least.
What category would you say you're in? Are you really competing with Facebook or not?
So, what we call ourselves is a social network for meeting new people, and we play broadly in this social discovery space. And so we think we're very different from Facebook. We think of Facebook as a place you go to connect with friends and family. It would be very strange to find someone new, or even to meet someone at, say, a conference or on the street, and then go find them on Facebook and friend them. Right? Facebook is really more about intimate connections with people that are your friends or your family that maybe you went to school with, and it's not really about meeting new people. And yet, meeting new people is this basic human need for a large section of the population, especially 18 to 30, and maybe even more narrow, 18 to 24. Very, very important age where you're just constantly social. You're constantly meeting new people. Some of those people you may know for a few days, and some of those people will be the people that you build lifetime relationships with. And so that is the area we focus on, this social discovery. And when we think about what that means to us, it means basically creating a mobile version and an online version of the coffee house or the bar, basically this gathering place. So it's not as transactional as, say, a dating site might be, where your job is to kind of meet someone specific, namely someone that you want to be your significant other, and then go leave the dating site. What this is all about is people kind of socializing as if they were at the mall or the coffee house, coming together around photos, maybe around status posts. At the center of our app is a location-based news feed with 2 million posts a day. And so people are discovering nearby people through the various features and applications we build.
So it's really a case of focus, I guess. Facebook is focused on staying in contact with people you know. Internet dating is focused on people that you want to date and mate with, and you're kind of the middle ground, perhaps. The people discovery services like Badoo and Tagged and Highlight and Sonar would compare it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, the way I would think of it as, there's sites that try to make casual relationships, and there's sites that kind of focus on the intimate relationships. And I think we're clearly in the casual space. When you ask people why they join Meet Me and why they continue to log in, 90% say to make new friends. And actually 37, 38% say that they found a best friend, someone that they consider a best friend on the site. So, but it's through this casual gameplay and casual application and this just browsing that enables those connections to be made in the first place.
You're a public company now. Has that really helped you or hindered you, do you think?
I think I think it's mostly helped, and the reason is, I think it really does focus the team and everyone here on the things that really are going to drive continued growth and continued value. I think there's always pluses and minuses with kind of a public entity status, but at the same time, at the earliest stages, what we've now achieved essentially through this public market vehicle is leadership in this social discovery, this kind of nascent social discovery space. And so, we see deal flow and we see inbound interest that in working with us that we might not see if we weren't, if we didn't have a higher profile.
On the subject of money, how do you make money?
So it's a combination of advertising and virtual currency. And traditionally, it was very skewed towards advertising. That's changed quite a bit since our focus on mobile. So our mobile revenue is roughly 50-50. It's about 45% virtual currency, which is very different from how it works on the web, where there's a much heavier advertising skew. And what we found when we originally approached mobile, and this was only in 2010, it was about 2.5 years ago, that we launched our first apps. And we did it just to get more users to basically to take the users we had and engage them for a longer portion of their day, because we assumed, they're obviously not always at the desktop. But it really wasn't, at least, originally, it was really wasn't about growing new users or monetizing users. It was really just, let's extend our day with the user. Fast forward 2.5 years, 60% of daily active users are mobile, right? It's kind of a tremendous number. It's clearly where we're growing fastest, and now also where we have most usage. And so that phase shift has been the most significant kind of development in our history. And where it comes into the monetization is, what we found is, for the same products, so the same virtual currency products that we also sell on the web, our mobile users are far more likely to buy them. So on Android, it's roughly 3 times more likely than the web. On iPhone, 5 to 6 times more likely than the web. And what these spotlight products are these abilities to spotlight yourself so you can meet more people faster. I mentioned the location-based news feed. If you spotlight your post, you'll move to the top of the feed and you'll get more likes and comments. Or you can spotlight yourself in a spotlight bar, where we have where users can basically bid 50 credits, $1 to enter the bar, knocking someone else out, kind of like an AdSense for people, and you'll get more profile views and friend requests that way. And then there's another spotlight product in one of our other apps. And so what we found is that while those products had all existed on the web, once brought to mobile and essentially ported to mobile, people were much more likely to buy. And so why? I mean, the reason is that the frictionless nature of mobile payments. On an iPhone, a user is just one iTunes password away from paying you. On Android, a Google checkout password. So it's just a much easier flow. And so it's made just a tremendous difference. And so much so that, naively, when you start in mobile, you say, well, let's build. You start out building features that kind of port from web to mobile, and a lot of those made a lot of sense, because so much of the My Yearbook and now Meet Me product had been built around location and photos, which play extremely well to mobile devices. But once you kind of do all the easy porting of features, you start to think, well, now let's just build for mobile, because that's what we are, right? We're a mobile company, very different from where we were 2.5 years ago. And so the same things at play in the monetization side. You start out just porting kind of the most successful of the web products, and now we're in the phase where we're building what I think are very interesting mobile monetization products that probably won't even have a web analog. We have a mobile subscription product coming out in Q1 that we previously announced. We have a mobile feed advertising product coming out then as well. So we're putting a pretty heavy emphasis on freemium products, on subscription, and then I would say that the way we view monetization on mobile is really a function of 2 things. One is virtual currency and one is advertising. And we think the virtual currency side is the most promising, because that's where you have just this big benefit of users being more likely to pay you, given the mobile payments. And on the advertising side, though, you also have this pretty interesting picture, because today only 1% of the global ad spend is in mobile, despite well more than 10% of the total time spent in media being in mobile. And most people think that 10% number will go to 20, 25% of all time spent. So there's going to be an explosion in mobile advertising, because there has to be, because that's where people are. And of course, no one knows how long that will take. Is it going to be 2 years or 2 decades? And I think, given some of the players in this space and how fast kind of the world moves now, and with Facebook seeing such success on their mobile advertising products, as well as Twitter, Facebook just in Q3 announced $3 million a day in mobile feed advertising. I think it's just a very, very exciting time for mobile advertising as well. But I think the way we think about mobile advertising is, we'll look at the landscape around us and see what interesting ad units might be being created I very much believe that we'll see rapid innovation in ad units, um, and then we'll fast follow those, and we'll add kind of our value add and our product insights on the virtual currency side, where I think it's kind of lower hanging fruit.
So I think we could agree that mobile was the big trend for 2012. What do you think is going to be the big trend for the people discovery category in 2013?
Yeah. So, I think there's a couple things. One is the mobile trend's not played out. So you're going to see continued focus on mobile and on different ways to connect via mobile devices. The other thing that I think you're going to see is increasing interests, and interest being brought much more to the forefront of the application. And part of the reason it's not there yet is you do need to achieve some form of critical mass in order to really pull interests off. And the reason is kind of easy to see, right? If you have, say you have 1,000 people in New Jersey, and age, gender, location targeting, that 1,000 people might be enough to get some basic interaction, some basic socialization going. But once you start adding interest to the mix, the odds that there's someone in there who shares your interest in whatever it might be, a particular musician maybe, and Dunkin' Donuts, it's much smaller. And so you do need some level of scale. And I think we're starting to flirt with that level of scale today. We now have well over or at least over 1 million active users every single day logging in from the United States, and then multiple or significant users as well logging in overseas, and a growing number logging in overseas. I think in September we said so about 29% of our MAU was international, up from maybe 17% in June. So significant international growth as well. But once you start getting to that level of scale, million plus people logging in every day, you start to enable some of the connections. You allow interest to potentially enter the equation, and we're starting to think through what that means for MeetMe.
And what are you focused on for 2013?
I would say mobile monetization is probably the number one, and with a bullet. I think if you look at where there's opportunity, one way to think of it is, and in a way we measure our own audience, is that you look at the average revenue per daily active user. On the web, that number is 14 cents. So that means every time someone essentially logs in and makes themselves an active user, at least in a single day, that's 14 cents. On mobile, the average revenue per daily active user is 3 cents. Dramatic chasm. And yet, on a percentage basis, that 3 cents is up dramatically from where we were just a year ago. In fact, in Q4 of last year, only about 5%, a little over 5% of our MeetMe platform revenue came from mobile. That number has actually expanded to 20% in Q3 of this year. So in the span of 4 quarters, essentially a quadrupling of MeetMe platform revenue coming from, or at least the share of revenue coming from mobile. And I think you could say, well, yeah, that's great progress, but I think there's a lot of room to grow that, because a good portion of that revenue that came from mobile was based on these spotlight products that we only just launched in Q1, and we feel like there's a number of additional new products we can be launching. And if you look at that 3 cent to 14 cent gap, obviously you get a sense of some of the opportunity. Every 1 penny increase in mobile monetization and closing of that gap, so 3 cents to 4 cents, is more than $2 million in annualized revenue. So as you get mentally better in mobile monetization, there's just significant leverage there. And I think there's no reason necessarily to think that the boundary is your current web monetization levels, right? So I don't know that 3 cents will close to 14 cents, although certainly we're committed to closing that gap. But there's a lot of reasons to be very bullish about mobile in general, especially mobile payments. They're just advantaged in ways that really aren't on the web at all. Mobile advertising, I think, is this question mark that the industry, and the question mark is just on the time frame, in terms of how fast that gap closes versus time spend and ad spend. But I tend to think it's going to close fairly quickly, because mobile as a platform is very interesting. I mean, you're able to take location-based cues. I think Facebook's being very smart in how they're building the feed advertising in their mobile advertising into the feed itself, when traditionally they had been always just putting their ads on the right rail on the web and saying, advertising is something that sits on the side. Now they're saying advertising is something that really goes into the core of the user experience and fits contextually into it. And I think that's exciting, and I think that's going to mean advertisers benefit as well.
Great. Geoff Cook, you're the COO and co-founder of Meet Me. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.